Coming to you live from Revive with all due respect. And here's your host, CJ Walter.
Good evening.
Those eyebrows, man.
Should I talk like an old man tonight?
You gotta do something with those. You walk on or something. Yeah.
Hey everybody, Periscope people in the audience coming out here tonight to the Halloween theme with all due respect.
I'm excited.
My main man Shark, stand up and show them people your costume.
Yes.
There you go, Chick Magnet.
Chick Magnet.
Hey! Hey, I'm impressed. I have to say, it's way better than that crayon box you wore.
Well, I knew I had to come up with something at least that would get a chuckle from you, because if not, I would have to hear about it for the next 365 days.
Yes, you're exactly right. And my main man Wizard in the back, pushing buttons, doing his thing. All right, so we're going to continue to look awesome in these costumes, and I'm going to be blind by the time this is over with.
I think so.
Because somebody was terrible. You know how we do it with all due respect? Top 5, let's get started.
Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3.
All right, top 5. I might lose my glasses.
They look like Coke bottles.
They're bad. Top 5. West Virginia man faces charges after wanting to sing Justin Bieber songs to a bunch of children. It's awesome. So this guy bursts into a middle school and asks the people in the office to sing over the intercom. He wants to sing Justin Bieber songs to the middle school.
Yes.
So when that happens, you got a strange dude in place. What happens? The police are called.
Yes.
The place goes on lockdown. They arrest the guy. He's got drugs.
What kind of random guy just walks into a middle school and says, "Hey, I have no business being here, but I'm here to sing Justin Bieber songs to everybody over the intercom."
And then they arrest him.
They didn't let him sing?
No. They arrest him, and because he's got some drugs on him, go figure. So he gets out of the hospital, and then he breaks into a daycare and wants to sing over their intercom.
No.
Yeah.
That guy, kept him in jail.
I would love to. I would just let him sing. It would have been
I
hilarious.
don't even know any Justin Bieber songs.
Moving on. A grocery store in Pennsylvania refuses to sell eggs to minors during Halloween.
I can see that.
Well,
I mean, you have some kids going in there buying, 5 dozen eggs, and it's almost Halloween. It's like, hey, what are you going to do with these?
so
Eat 'em?
so someone who is like 18, like that kid is way more mature than the 17-year-old kid, right?
I would say not.
No. So my thing is, what about the toilet paper?
That could get dangerous.
They're gonna sell toilet paper? It's egging houses and
What about the plastic forks?
those flamingos. What can you buy around Halloween?
I would say
You can't buy that stuff.
if you're not over 18 years old, you can't buy anything
That's
at
like-
any convenience store.
I'm like, you cannot make up laws as you go.
I guess they can do whatever they want.
Moving on. Cleaners mistake art installation for trash and throw it away. Now Wizard has this photo. And you've got, look at this. So, this is the art. This was in a kind of a museum or whatever. And the cleaning people come in, I guess it's an art gallery or something. Cleaning people come in and they see this mess. And they're like, they've had a party in here or something. So they clean all this stuff up and throw it away. Come to find out, that's art. Someone spent time placing all those. They cleaned it all up. I mean, this is the person walked in. It's like the room was completely spotless.
The worst art I've ever seen.
That's what I said.
What is it?
Like, daggone it, it's gonna take us like all of 3 minutes to make that pack.
Remake it. It might even be better the second
We're
time.
gonna throw confetti and like drop a bunch of bottles everywhere.
Yeah, but I guarantee that none of them had an ounce of liquor left in them.
Oh.
If they're gonna make art, they're gonna have a good time.
If you call that art, then you have to drink every one of those bottles. Is what I think. Moving on. 40,000 people were surveyed around the U.S. And a favorite Halloween candy has been crowned.
Favorite Halloween candy?
Favorite Halloween candy of all candies.
If it's not Reese Cups, then it's not true.
Well, it's not. The winner is candy corn.
Nobody likes candy corn.
I love candy corn. I love the candy corn
Anybody out there like
pumpkins.
candy corn?
Candy corn, anybody?
Ugh.
Yeah, we got some candy.
Yeah, but if you had your choice of all the candies, you would pick candy corn?
Here's what Kentucky was surveyed. Guess what theirs was?
What?
Whoppers.
Okay, I can buy that.
That's worse than candy corn.
Yeah, what the?
That's terrible.
Whoppers are way better than candy corn.
That is a terrible candy. Wizard, Whoppers, or candy corn?
Candy corn.
Exactly.
Whoppers. That's like disgusting.
You don't have to do a poll.
Trick or treat. Can I have a heart attack, please? No. Okay, you really gonna give some 5-year-old little girl like a Whopper when she comes to the door?
Here's a couple candy corn.
No, not the burger, the chocolate Whoppers. The malt balls.
Oh, okay.
The cheeseburger Whopper would be a great idea.
And you made fun of me last week for the 6-word thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Hey,
Whoppers
chocolate
and
Whoppers.
Burger King are way
I'm not
better
sure
than
about
candy
that.
corn.
Dude, if I went to a house that was giving out Whoppers from Burger King, I would break them people.
I would have like 3 different costumes, and I would just keep going back.
Maybe the people in Kentucky, that's what they were voting on.
That's a very valid point.
They didn't survey me, I'll tell you that. Because I would vote for candy corn.
No,
I love the pumpkins. I love how the pumpkins can taste just like the regular corn pieces.
but they're not real pumpkins and real corn.
Prove it. Moving on. Most popular adult costumes of 2015.
Ooh, is it a chick magnet?
I love, no, it's not Chick Magnet. I love this because like we have talked about these people. And number 1, the Kentucky clerk.
That's
The
number
Kentucky
1.
clerk is number 1. What's her name? Kim Davis, the Kentucky clerk. And people were saying it's because it's such it's bad. Like the costume.
That could be a group.
They're selling kits. They're selling these kits like
That could be a group costume idea.
it comes like with a long jean skirt, it's hilarious. Like people are making money off this. So number 2, Caitlyn Jenner. Why? It's because these are easy costumes.
Yeah, really.
And number 3, our guy, Donald the Trump.
Yeah, I can see that.
His masks are hilarious.
I just hope that nobody comes in with Trump's hand.
Trump's thing. I would love to have wanted Donald Trump, but his hair just does things that mine will not do.
Is his hair real?
It's like, hold on.
Is it?
Like, real on this.
It's real on this side. Wow.
Alright, moving on. Trending on Twitter. Wizard.
Today is hashtag National I Love You Day.
National I Love You Day.
National I Love You Day. But see, it also is National Chocolate Day, which makes sense because all women love chocolate.
You see, like, I knew it was National I Love You Day. Because that's the first thing I said to my wife when I woke up today.
You're full of it.
I hope she's watching.
She knows you're full of it too.
Yeah, we don't know to tell her.
I love you.
I like chocolate. I like Reese Cups. Did I say
Why does
that?
everything have to have a day? Like, it's ridiculous. Moving on.
Like,
What else
you're right,
we got?
National Dog Grooming Day.
Yeah,
Come
National
on.
Dog.
Just
Was it
like your
women's?
dog.
National Women's Day shares the same day as National Dog Day.
Is there a National Donald Trump Day?
I bet there is.
Hey, if he takes us home, there will be. Alright, hashtag Cavs for the Cavaliers. Big discussion, I know, I'll throw this to you, get some sports in here. He can get them to it. How about through it?
He's the greatest basketball player in the NBA
Right now.
right now. I didn't say of all time.
Arguably
Right
ever.
They're going to win the whole thing this year. It's what he does, right? He gets runner-up, and then he wins the next year. And he'll probably win the next 3 years.
He'll probably end up with about 3 more rings.
The Eastern Conference is a joke.
True.
So they don't even have to play hard.
If they can get the other 2 and 3 best player to
Kyrie
actually be
Irving staying
healthy.
healthy is going to be.
Kyrie Irving has to stay
If he
healthy.
doesn't stay healthy,
Right.
They can still win it if he
They
doesn't.
still snuck 2 games
Yeah.
last year, even like.
And they didn't have Kevin Love because Kevin Love was hurt.
They were playing some dude that they no one's ever gonna heard of. You'll never hear him again.
Who's that?
I don't even know how to spell his name. They say
Baralinko or
Dara Davidova.
Dellavedova. Matthew
Dive on the
Dellavedova.
flora.
Yes.
Okay,
Matthew dive on the flora.
Yes.
watch out.
Dive on the floor.
Never hear him again. Ghost.
Alright, here's what we got. Now, if you can look at the screen, I have hashtag Trumpkin.
Look at that hair. That took some time.
Donald Trump is making his rounds.
That took some time.
That took some time. Now, there's some weird ones. This one next up here, it's not quite doesn't quite look like him, but it's him.
What?
That's terrible.
That's horrifying. But that's Donald Trump. That's a Trumpkin.
Allegedly.
And here you go. That's just somebody put on.
That's great.
But they're putting Donald Trump picture on all these pumpkins.
Trumpkin.
Put in, calling them Trumpkins. All I know is I love every bit of that.
Yeah. And can I talk to you about carving pumpkins? Like that.
Let's
right
talk
there,
about that. Let's talk about
that right
carving
there
pumpkins.
is just horrible.
It
like,
is.
Like we carved pumpkins last night.
I know.
or
2 nights ago, man. I'm right with you.
It is terrible.
Yeah. I'm like, this is a great idea. Spend some time with the wife and the kids, and they'll remember this. And halfway through, I'm carving 2 pumpkins somehow.
Yes.
And Hadley's done bored with it after the first 5 minutes.
Yep.
My back is hurting. The kitchen is a mess. And the pumpkins got rained on the last 2 days.
Yep. I got 7. I got kids that are old, like 8 and 8-year-olds, just like whatever. Hey, can somebody finish this? I mean, so that's what we were. We had like 5 pumpkins sitting around. They're all playing. We're trying to finish this.
Yeah.
It's god awful. Like the job is that my hand. It was like clenching up. Like,
Yeah,
this is
like-
stupid.
Those little tiny saws they give you in those packs.
Yeah.
It's like, like 2 fingers is all you can hold on to.
terrible.
That little saw.
So somebody that can do that, that's all to them,
Yeah.
man. That's ridiculous.
Tip of the hat.
Oh, there it is.
Now a word from our sponsors. Rico's Dance Studio. At Rico's Dance Studio, we have the finest instructors that can pop, lock, and drop any kind of dance moves that you need. Dance moves like this can make any man less unattractive. A little bit of Would You Rather.
Would you rather?
Alright. You guys ready for this?
Ready.
Would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or a horse-sized duck?
I'm gonna go with. That's scary. I don't know.
You guys just say that again. Because you lost me at horse-sized duck.
Alright, would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or a horse-sized duck?
I'm definitely going with 100 duck-sized horses. I would rather fight. A horse-sized duck would terrify me to death. Terrifying.
No doubt. I mean, I would run away from a horse-sized duck.
Yeah.
Good.
I think my eyebrows are crying.
Alright, would you rather be stuck on the ark with the animals for 40 days or in the belly of a fish for 3 days?
How big is the fish? Because like
I'm saying you
I
got,
watched
you
that
got some
movie.
elbow room.
that movie Pinocchio, they had a boat in there and it was like cooking stuff, had a fire.
Not quite as
I'm
big
just
as
saying.
Pinocchio, I don't think.
I can hang out. I can hang out on the ship inside.
You go first on this one.
I'd have to be in the ark, I guess.
I would probably go arc myself.
Yeah, the only bad thing about the ark is you're feeding animals You're cleaning up, smells
Yeah,
something horrible. The lion's trying to eat the giraffe.
But I don't know if I would want to be inside a fish for 3 days.
I hear you. Just 3 days though. The other 4, I mean,
I don't know.
it's good debate. All right, would you rather be bitten by a vampire or a werewolf?
Bitten?
Bitten?
Yes.
Well,
Bitten, meaning you
I'm going to say
transform.
vampire. If you get bit by a werewolf, you die.
yeah, vampire,
right?
I think you live forever, right?
Vampire,
No, you turn into
Like
both.
Edward.
If you get bit by a vampire, you turn into a vampire. If you
I know,
get bit by a
you live
werewolf, you turn into a werewolf.
I've seen the movies.
Well, are we talking like Teen Wolf or just straight up werewolf?
No Michael J. Fox, Teen Wolf.
According to the movies,
Because that matters.
if you're a werewolf, you have to walk around all the time with your shirt off.
Yeah.
That would not be a great look for me, so I'm going to go vampire.
But maybe if you got bit by a werewolf and you turn into a werewolf, maybe you would look like those guys so you could walk around with your shirt off.
Yeah. You'd have to read the fine print.
Yeah, you'd really have to read the fine print on would you rather or not.
I hear you. All right. Would you rather only be able to whisper or shout?
Whisper.
There's no way I could live whispering. I'm one of the loudest people you ever meet. Which makes it it's funny the other day. We're going through the drive-thru at McDonald's, and me and my mentee, I'm like, we pull up and the lady's like, "Welcome to McDonald's, would you take your order?" And I'm like, he's dying laughing at the lady, and she's, just shouting. It scares me. I'm like running into the car in the back of me and everything.
All right. Would you rather be in a real version of The Walking Dead or Jurassic Park? You got to live here, okay? A real version.
Like real life.
Real life.
Oh, definitely The Walking Dead.
How long do we have? You just said version. So you're talking about like an episode?
For like an hour?
You have to read the fine print because
No, this is the rest of your life. It either starts as you're in Jurassic Park, you're in The Walking Dead.
For the rest of your life?
The world just turned Jurassic Park or
Oh, I'm
The
definitely
Walking
going Walking Dead. You got a better chance of surviving. Are you kidding me? Jurassic Park on stinking dinosaurs running around? We ain't got a choice. We ain't got a chance with them.
all right, I guess I'm going Walking Dead.
I'd flat kill a walker.
Are we allowed to say that?
With all due respect, I will flat kill a walker.
Yeah, that.
Alright, as we get into tonight's meet, I figured it would be, we're going to talk about look at that,
I like it.
great soundtrack tonight. So, we're going to talk about the history of Halloween and what people know about Halloween and what our opinions are about Halloween and all that good stuff. And when you leave here tonight or you stop watching Periscope, you're probably going to be dumber than you were when you started watching.
Exactly.
That's the way I feel when I read all this stuff. But so instead of me sitting up here and reading you a bunch of facts about something, I found a 2-minute video clip that the Wizard's going to play there, and you can we can watch that instead.
When most people think of Halloween, they think of trick-or-treating, parades, bobbing for apples, and other family-friendly activities. But bet you didn't know the true story behind the ancient origins of Halloween. It all goes back some 2,000 years to the ancient Celtic festival known as Samhain, celebrated on November 1st. On the night before Samhain, people believed that the dead returned as ghosts. They would leave food and wine on their doorsteps to keep roaming spirits at bay, and wear masks when they left the house so they would be mistaken for fellow ghosts. The Christian church turned Samhain into All Saints' Day, or All Hallows, in the 8th century. The night before became All Hallows' Eve, later shortened to Halloween. You've heard of trick-or-treating on Halloween, but what about souling or guising? All three of these traditions originated in medieval Britain. On All Souls' Day, November 2nd, the needy would beg for pastries known as soul cakes. In return, they would pray for people's dead relatives. This was called souling. In the medieval Halloween tradition of guising, young people would dress up in costume and accept food, wine, money, and other offerings in exchange for singing, reciting poetry, or telling jokes. In 19th century America, Irish and Scottish immigrants revived these old traditions. The result was trick-or-treating. At first, it was much more about the tricks, in the form of pranks and hijinks, than the treats. It wasn't until the 1950s that the custom took on its current family-friendly, kid-centered form. Today, Halloween is big business, with U.S. consumers spending more than $2.5 billion on costumes annually. Add in the candy, and it's estimated that Americans spend up to $6 billion on Halloween each year, making it the second most commercial holiday after Christmas. So whether you're a fan of tricks, treats, or trivia, there's a bit of Halloween history.
We bet you didn't know!
So there you go. That's a great pumpkin.
That's a great pumpkin. That's insane.
I'm going to call Logan on that pumpkin. It's too good. So, let me take off my glasses so I can read. So there's a little clip. That was much easier than me going through a bunch of history stuff, and that's all falling
Much
into
easier.
this place. So what I found out, what I thought was hilarious, is these people leaving food and drink at the doorsteps as like a peace offering to these spirits.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, it's like, who decides, like, who was the genius that come up with this? That, like, basically didn't have to go to the grocery store for, like, the next 2 months. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you better leave food out there. And then just, like, collected it all.
Collected every bit of it. Put it in their pantry.
Ate it all.
I have like 75 Cokes in my pantry right now.
And we start spreading that word.
I'm going to start that on up there on Pinhook.
There you go. You'd be like the king of the...
Yeah.
They kick you out of that subdivision. So then they would wear masks to leave the house so ghosts would not bother them. Hence the costumes.
Has the human race gotten smarter? Or what? Because I don't know if I could have ever really truly believed that.
I mean, you gotta think, it's a long, long time ago.
I can't even wrap my mind around that.
I mean, we're talking,
I really can't.
this is like before the 8th century. It's a long time ago.
So this was the night that, when it first originated, this was the night that the spirits were supposed to come and walk around with the living.
Right.
So if people went outside, they would wear masks so they could trick the spirits and the ghosts into thinking
Like they're one of them. Like in the club.
like a wolf pack.
Like, who's not going to go out there and, like, check it out?
Right. I would. I would not stay inside and just put out a couple Cokes.
So, as we get into some of this history of Halloween, so that was before the 8th century, before the 800s, right? Then, in the 8th century, in the 800s, after death, the Christian church changed. Now, you see how that was spelled, right? Samhain. But they're saying that you pronounce it Samhain. They didn't even know how to spell back then either.
Evidently.
So they changed into All Saints' Day to honor saints and martyrs the night before. The night before turned into All Hallows' Eve. Then November 2nd was turned into All Souls' Day. Together, the three celebrations, the Eve of All Saints, and All Souls' Day, are called Hallowmas.
Whoa! So was it like it wasn't like worshiping those who were dead. It was meant to be like a prayer.
Well, it was like the church turned it into All Saints' Day to honor them, like these people who have been martyred, or to not worship. And then the All Souls' Day was to remember those who were dead, who had gone on before them. Not like the prayer and stuff that they were talking about, you know.
So what you're saying is that all of the other stuff, society has kind of added in.
Well, that's where, like, you can see it adapting as it goes. Because basically the Christian church took this Samhain, which was a pagan holiday.
Right.
Pagan holiday, it was like a big celebration of where it went from fall to winter, where the seasons changed. And they would have a big party and whatnot, and then they was, you know, they feared they had these ghosts because of the time of the year, whatever, would be around. So when the Christian church, you know, all of a sudden here's the Christian church, you know, is on the scene, and they try to take that holiday and change it into something that was not the pagan way.
Right.
Right? So they changed it from Samhain into All Saints Day, and then the 3 days all together.
Have turned into Halloween.
Well, it's Hallowmas is what it was called. And that's where you get the day before was Hallow, and E-E-N is some kind of term before love, like
Eve or the day
yeah,
before?
like the Eve.
You're crazy.
So that's where you get Halloween. Now, moving on to the late 1800s, there was a move in America to mold Halloween into a holiday more about the community and neighborhood get-togethers than it was about ghosts and pranks and all that stuff. So, because of their efforts, Halloween lost most of its superstitious and religious stuff back then. Then, by the 1920s and 1930s,
It became commercialized.
basically it started becoming a community-centered holiday with parades. I mean, they were, you know, getting it up. And but the problem with the 20s and the 30s is that people were taking more of the tricks than the treats, and all the towns across America had all these problems with vandalism. That's where the eggs. I never seen any of that I remember, but I never lived like in town, so I don't. You know, maybe I was missing that. I had a girlfriend once that thought it'd be cool to like bring her friends and come toilet paper our house. Yeah, it was real fun when I turned my dog out on them and they were running through the I was into that relationship.
Your dog sound like T-Rex?
My dog was a bad man.
Did you have to know about the history of jack-o'-lantern?
Well, let me get through Halloween and you can
Oh,
talk about
sorry.
that. So the vandalism, by the 1950s, town leaders had successfully limited vandalism, and Halloween had evolved into a holiday directed mainly at young people. So you had the 50s, so you had the 20s and 30s, vandalism was getting it done. 50s, they put it in kibosh to that. Then, so we're talking about a new American tradition when it starts into the inexpensive way to share and celebrate with the community, you know, a couple bags of candy here and there.
Right.
And then by the 1990s, like you said, commercialism, basically. Halloween is the second largest commercial holiday. And like on that video, $6.9 billion on costumes, accessories, and decorations.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, with all this, so you wonder where some of the things come. You said the jack-o'-lanterns, right?
Right.
Now, we've read a couple of different things on the jack-o'-lanterns,
Yeah.
right? What did yours... The jack-o'-lanterns had to do with that, like they were talking about the souling and the guising.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was basically when they would shape their jack-o'-lanterns, when they would put the candle inside of it, that would represent like a spirit, like trapped in purgatory. And that would be like who they would be praying for.
Right. But, quick note was, they didn't, back in those times, it wasn't the pumpkin, it was, what do you say?
Yeah, it was
A turnip.
yeah, a
They used a
turnip.
turnip, yeah. And it wasn't until this thing came to North America that people used pumpkins because they were easier
You could
to.
get them. They were easier to get. They were easier to carve. They were,
Yeah, it's way better. They would also use those.
carving a turnip.
I don't know. Maybe it's easier than carving the pumpkin.
How could you imagine
But,
carving a can or a fitting turnip?
So when it moved, they took the pumpkin, but they would take those turnips and they would use them, like you said, use them for that, and they'd use them to hold the money and the gifts and stuff when they were out singing, and so the souling and the guising, and that's where the pumpkins come from. And then there was trick-or-treating, which stemmed from them leaving food on the doorsteps for the ghosts. That kind of was, and they used that because in the 20s and 30s when vandalism was running rampant, that was one of the ways that people would try to keep their houses from getting vandalized, was to, hey, give out treats and whatnot.
Here's some treats.
Here's some treats. Don't throw eggs. Problem was,
Wrong with you people!
so it was a great idea, but knowing these punk kids, they'd take the candy and then take the house anyways. Like toilet paper tricks, that's okay. Eggs? It's not cool.
Not cool.
Listening to you, you're crazy.
So trick or treating went from that to that. So I mean, you start digging into where all this, and it's kind of interesting, but
It's real interesting.
where it all strives from. But I think what the biggest thing when people think about Halloween, they think about the church and Halloween, it's always the same questions, right?
Yeah.
And those questions, as Christians, so we celebrate Halloween. So before we get into that, let's go ahead and,
That's interesting.
bring our pastor for the night up, Pastor Josh Cummins. So, Pastor Josh, we're getting into basically the big part of what everybody wants to talk about is, as Christians, what is our take on Halloween? Like, I literally have researched and read more things this week than I ever care to ever. And honestly, when you start reading it, you get either this side or this side.
Yeah.
I mean, and it is either completely 100% all for this or the other way around.
Black or white.
It's crazy. So, I guess, what do you want to start with your take first, Shark, or you want to start with Pastor Josh?
That's up to you. That's up to him.
Oh, I'm good with either.
Go ahead, Shark.
I'll go first.
Doesn't matter to me.
Basically, like you said, I mean, if you look at it, I don't think that it is over here or over here. I think that if you look at it from a biblical standpoint, I think that the Bible doesn't clearly come out and say anything about Halloween. But I think that if you look at Scripture, I think that it does warn you about things like Halloween. And I think that the first Scripture that I go to is 2 Corinthians chapter 6. Chapter 6, verse 14. It says, "Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers, for what partnership has righteousness with lawlessness? Or what fellowship has light with darkness?" Now, the way that I look at that scripture and I apply it to Halloween is this. It has been changed and manipulated and so commercialized and turned into this certain thing that is viewed as we're worshiping evil spirits, okay? And I think that a lot of people look at it that way. But I think that the way that you need to look at it is, how do you celebrate Halloween? If you celebrate Halloween, you celebrate this season or this holiday to where you are being yoked with those people, where if your way of celebrating resembles theirs, I think that that can become an issue. But I think that if you look at it from a biblical standpoint and say, okay, what can I do to bring glory to God even through a dark situation, I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong with celebrating Halloween. I just think that you have to be very extremely careful of how you celebrate it and the things that you do. I said do. And I think we can look at Ephesians chapter 6 as well, where it talks about putting on the armor of God. And I think that Christians have to be very careful with Halloween for this fact too, is I think that it is kind of a hairy situation. It is a hairy time because you're treading on thin ice as far as whether you're going to be yoked with that type of celebration of Halloween or not. And I think that one thing that Christians can definitely do is to make sure that they put on the armor of God. And specifically in the part where it's, again, we're in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. It says, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over the present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm." And I think that if you look at Halloween, even if you think that it might be an evil day, I think that as Christians, if we're putting on that armor of God, and we're taking time to say, all right, God, how can I celebrate this and somehow bring glory to you? I think that's the first thing that you have to do. But going back to treading on thin ice, I think that if you're a Christian and you're not doing that, I think that this time can be very, very scary for you. Because you might be celebrating a holiday that you really don't know what it means. You really don't know what you're celebrating. And you don't know how what you're doing is affecting somebody else that's on the outside looking in. So I think that you have to look at it. You have to look at it that way too.
No, the problem that I get with it is, for me, Halloween, I could really care less. It's, you know what I'm saying? To me, it's no different. Saturday is Halloween. It's not going to be any different to me than Friday. You know what I'm saying? Except for I get to throw on some old eyebrows and act like an idiot for a couple hours. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, I think that goes back to what I was saying though, too, about making sure that spiritually you are prepared, not just for Halloween, but for every single day. Because I think that you put on the armor of God every morning when you wake up, and you are striving after God. I think there are a lot of people out there that give themselves the label of Christian that don't do that, and I think that's where it can be scary and a little sketchy on how we celebrate the season. And I do want to say too, I know that a lot of people look at this and they're like, why in the world do you all dig so deep into it? But I think it's important that we do, not just with Halloween, but I think it's important that we dig into every single thing that we celebrate and every single thing that we do. We're not going to be able to change or figure out everything all at once. But I think if you take time like we're doing, a little bit at a time, you know, over time, you're going to be able to set some ground rules for yourself and say, okay, I think this is okay, I think this is not okay, and I think that we can glorify God more through that. So I think it's important that we talk about stuff like that.
No, I agree. I think that's kind of like what I mentioned earlier, is that I think the Christian church, I think the people should dig in.
Exactly. Because
whatever it is. I'm talking like Christmas, Halloween, all these things that we take and say, you know, why? Because it gets back to the old adage of, why do we do that? I don't know. It's something we've always done, right?
Exactly.
That doesn't make it right. Just because it's the way you've always done something doesn't mean you've been doing it right the whole time. I think there's things, you know, when you start digging into Halloween, and most people will say, and you get those people that are just extreme on one side, and they just, well, Halloween was pulled off of something that used to be a pagan holiday. Cut it out. And I'm like, but you have a Christmas tree in your front.
That's a pagan symbol.
That's a pagan symbol. So you don't know.
Yeah.
So you have those people that have not dug into it, and they just throw it out.
Right.
All together. And then when a day comes, you hide, and they don't. You know what I'm saying? You take your children, and you just wait for it to be over with.
Right.
And I'm like, what about the light of Christ? How are you gonna? What's that little song that you learn from a kid? You're not supposed to. You don't hide your light. You know.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of different ways to look at it. But I think you're right. I think that for the Christian that's walking daily in doing what they're supposed to be doing, putting on the armor, like you said, you're not going to have issues.
Not gonna have any
You're not.
issues.
You're not even going to look at this and say whatever.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But it is. It could be the younger generation. It could be the kids, the teenagers, whatever it is. Those are someone who's not walking firmly with Christ.
Right.
But that's not just Halloween. That's
It's everything.
everyday
Yeah.
stuff there. And I think that shows you the importance of getting into it. But I mean, there's a whole other side of that we're not even going to talk about tonight about what people, cults have said about the day of Halloween and blah blah blah. And you know what? They whatever you want to do, you can pick any day you want to do certain things. And this so happens to be the Halloween. So you know that there's a lot of evil things out there. I mean, there is. You don't need Halloween to know that there's evil things. But I think it's the way that you carry yourself.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? I think it's the way that you, like I have no problem with my kids going trick-or-treating or doing whatever, but they're not going to dress up as,
demons
and
or anything like that. But
yeah.
and I know I keep butting in here, but I feel really strongly about this. In my Bible, in the study part down at the bottom, it says, "And yet Scripture makes it clear that the enemy has no match for the Lord, and who has disarmed the rulers and authorities and put them to open shame by triumphing over them in Him." And again, it just goes back to, it's not just with Halloween, like you said, it's every single day. I think that if you're really pursuing God and you really have a relationship with Him, I don't think it's going to be an issue. And I don't think you need to make it an issue. But if you're out there and you're giving yourself that label of Christian, saying, "I'm believing in God," I think that you need to dig into it a little bit and find out exactly, how are you celebrating this holiday? And are you bringing the Word of God, or not?
So, Pastor Josh, being as the pastor here at Revive, you hear these different things, and you've got some churches that will just absolutely do not have anything to do with the day of Halloween. You've got some churches that take a stance on it, and we turn it into a harvest something. And you've got some to do like on an anti, kind of what we've done in the past on New Year's Eve, where you open the church up to kind of give a different spin on, an option for younger people.
Put a godly spin on it.
Yeah, put a godly spin on it. And I've read, like I said, I've read more things than I want to, but get your opinion on what you think the church should, because here at Revive, Saturday night, we do a trunk or treat. So I just wonder what your stance on the church side of it. What is how do you think that, you have to have an opinion because our church is...
Yeah. We're doing
kind of, I don't know.
So I guess trunk or treat, just us having it, speaks to kind of our opinion, and it kind of backs up Sharks. But a couple things I want to say before I say anything is, number one, the holiday that scares me more than any other holiday is Christmas, not Halloween.
Yeah.
So I put that out there. That's a scarier holiday to Christians than Halloween is to me. Christians don't glorify God, and Christmas worse. Or in ways I see as worse than they do on Halloween. Put that first.
That's a great point.
Okay. Second thing is, Halloween, the biggest holiday in our culture is the Super Bowl. That's the biggest holiday going right now, is that Super Bowl. CJ and I watched the way that churches use the Super Bowl to bring people in. I think, and we use this verse a lot, but Paul says, in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, he's talking about how I have become all things so that I may save some. We use that for a lot of different things. That's a very broad statement. But there's no doubt that the origin of Halloween is wrong. Okay? The idea of dead souls being here is a very false and very wrong idea. That's number one. And people are still dumb enough to believe that today. If you watch all these shows on TV, these ghost watch shows, these people still believe in that silly stuff today. Like, and people still always come up to me like, well, one time my TV turned off randomly. I think it was Grandma. Don't act like you never heard that before, okay? Right? Silly stuff like that people still say, and there's no doubt demons and angels there's a spiritual battle going around us, but this idea that ghosts still reside here still exists today. It is a false idea. This idea of necromancy, bringing back the dead, that's what I was joking with you about earlier. Bringing back the dead is totally spoke about in the Bible. That it's wrong. So this idea to entertain this idea of ghosts being real is very wrong biblically. That's my main point I want to make. But I think that the church can use trick-or-treat or use Halloween to glorify God. When we bring people in our church on Trunk or Treat, you guys made a video for people to watch, right? We're going to make a video, or we have, for people to watch and see what's going on in our church and see all the things God is doing in our church. And if one person comes to church here through Trunk or Treat, and then they end up getting baptized, it was a success. Like, sure. It was worth it. Like Paul says, I have become all things so I may save some, is what he says. Just so I may save some, I'll become all things. I will do whatever it takes to save some. Now, I'm not going to turn my back on my biblical views at all, but I can use, and you even see that in the history of Halloween. The church tried to use this, right? You see this all throughout the church, throughout all of history. We use what the world is using, and we transform it and try to use it to bring glory to God. Instruments in the church, right? That was in a bar. We took it into the church. More people started to come to church. More people came to know Christ. Halloween, Super Bowl, all these different things that we do. Let's just transform. Let's use them to glorify God. I have no problem with Trunk or Treat. I have no problem with bringing people into this place, putting a smile on a kid's face by wearing a funny costume. I don't think I'm not going to wear dead blood all over me. That's not going to happen with me. But I can put a smile on a kid's face, give them candy. Their parents can see our church, right? We may have more people come through this church this Saturday than on a Sunday morning, right? Last year, I don't know how many people came through here. Let's just let them see the place, get in here, and you never know who's going to come to know Christ through that one event. And if one person does, totally worth it. And I don't think we're doing anything biblically wrong there. We're not calling up the dead. We're not worshiping ghosts. Nobody even thinks about that anymore, I don't believe. On that day, nobody thinks Halloween, except these cult ideas. They do, maybe. But the normal, average human being or American does not think, I'm worshiping ghosts, and I'm going to, this is about ghosts. Nobody thinks that. I don't believe that. That never crossed my mind. As a teenager, never crossed my mind. Even now, it doesn't cross my mind. You know what I mean? Maybe it should, but it doesn't. I don't think that's not what people use it for. They use it, like you said in your history, community event.
I don't think a lot of people use it for that. I think some people do.
Oh, absolutely, some people do.
But I think a lot more people think about it than you think.
Yeah, maybe. I'm just saying I never have.
I don't think that they go out and think it, but I think they think about it like, well, this holiday is kind of.
Yeah, but I'm not meaning that. I mean,
they
don't use it for that.
Yeah.
They know the history maybe, but they don't use it for that.
I agree.
And so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Recognizing the history, figuring out how we can do it from a Christian standpoint. And if somebody comes to know Christ through it, it's totally all worth it for me. Same way with Christmas. I mean, people really need to take a look at it. Christians need to take a look at what they do on Christmas. Yeah. But I think the Super Bowl is a great example of Halloween transformed to today. You know what I mean? Like the Super Bowl, churches are using the Super Bowl great nowadays. Some people have the highest attendance in their church on Super Bowl, not on Christmas. Because they use it great. That's the biggest pagan holiday now to me. Everybody is doing something on Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's bigger than anything else. So let's use Super Bowl. Let's use whatever we can to bring people to come to know Christ. We do that, we're doing our job. But there's no doubt we should look at the history of it.
No, I agree.
No doubt.
I think you said Christmas. I think Easter.
Yeah, Easter. I mean, every single holiday is filled with paganism. Don't kid yourself. But the church used that pagan holiday and tried to bring people into the church. We still do it today. It has always been done throughout history. It will always be done.
I agree.
Because the culture does something, and we're in the world. If we can use what the culture is doing in a godly way, use it, transform it, right? Take the bad stuff out of it, transform it, and use it to reach people for Christ. That's what we're going to do. And that's what the church has been doing throughout all of history. Now, I don't believe in what the church did and all. Like, All Saints Sunday is still this Sunday coming up. It's All Saints Sunday. So people will, in churches around the world, be talking about martyrs, talking about people who have gone before. But the idea of praying about dead people, the false idea, that just seems wrong to me anyways from a Christian standpoint. That's silly to me. But the idea of recognizing people who've gone before us, who have, like, telling their stories. I love the story of missionaries who have gone before us and just telling their faith while they were still living, not praying for them now. You know, we're not saying they're praying for us. But, the church has always transformed holidays like that. And I think it's going to happen forever. And it's a good thing, because people come to know Christ through it.
All right, man. First, Pastor Josh, I appreciate you coming up.
Me and you watched the Super Bowl Sunday that Crossroads does.
Yeah, that was good.
Pretty awesome stuff.
Pretty different.
Yeah. And that's like the highest attended Sunday at their church.
I like how the mock stuff.
Oh, it's legit. It is really, really cool. If you don't never watched it, go on Crossroads and watch the Super Bowl Sunday. But they transform their church, and they do something really cool on Super Bowl Sunday, and that's the highest attendance day almost of the year. Maybe not above Christmas, or Easter, but it's close. And they do some awesome stuff with Super Bowl Sunday. Pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. So, thanks.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming up here. Pastor Josh, everybody. All right, so Pastor Josh had some good stuff there.
Good.
Simple, straight to the point. I mean,
You had a lot of good stuff tonight. A lot of good information.
yeah, I think it's definitely a lot of stuff to definitely roll around, but I think what it all comes down to is it's kind of like what you said. Whatever position that whatever my stance is on the whole subject, is it leading to love, joy, peace? Am I showing the light of Christ through what I'm doing?
Yep.
I think that can come with anything.
Yep.
Anything that we're doing. Because you don't want to get into the I think you need to stay away from judgment. I mean, you should have seen the people. I mean, it was crazy, the bashing going on between churches and between this and that. And it's just like,
Again, though, that's what you see. You don't see the people that you see people one extreme or the next. That's what they show. I mean, I'll never understand that.
and I don't get it either, because at the end of the day, whether either one of them is right or wrong, both of them is wrong.
Yeah.
You're not showing the line. You're not. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? You're gonna fight this other church because you feel like they're not being biblical.
But that's not biblical.
That's not biblical what you're acting. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. So I think that's basically what it comes down to, is like you said. We remember that, good overcame evil.
Mm-hmm.
We know that the peace that we have is in Jesus Christ.
It says that in that scripture I shared. Good defeats evil.
I mean, that's all you need to
God
know
wins.
at the end of the day. And I think that's basically what we have to go through in life, because we don't have the answers. We can't stand up here and tell, hey, Periscope people, hey, people in the audience, here is how you should feel as a Christian about Halloween.
Yeah, you can't do that.
You can't do that. We can't sit up here and say, this is how you should feel about guns. We can just say, here's the deal. Here's what, as long as you're in pursuit of God, He's going to direct your paths in the way that you need to go. And I think the paths are even your mind, the way you raise your family. It's the person that is seeking the information so that they can, guide their children, guide their family in a better way. That is where we need to be. You're not going to have all the answers, but you have to be that person that is in pursuit at all times, pursuing what God wants you to do. That's the person that can't fail.
Yep.
It's the person that sits back and says, whatever, whether my stance is 100% for this subject or against it, without pursuit, that's just an opinion.
Yep.
I think that's the biggest deal. So, I don't know, I learned a lot tonight. I think I learned, if it's not just about Halloween, I think I learned about just when we go into hard subjects, look at your life, look at the way you deal with your family. What am I doing in life? Am I digging into things, or am I doing things just because it's the way I've always done it? So I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. People on Periscope following us. People in the audience. I hope you had a good time. I hope you learned something. I hope you weren't dumber now than you were before, like you said at the beginning, right? So come out and check it out. Check it out next week. Same time, same place. We'll be here. Go Peace. We love you.